Hi friends, welcome back to Reader's Workshop. Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we can continue to become experts on the authors of our series books and how they use their words and their craft, their writing to really help us understand story and make a picture in our mind. Now today what I'm going to do first is I'm going to describe a typical school day, right? A school day as if we were actually at school and not really at home. But think about a typical school day, right? When you get to school, the first thing we do is we know that we go to the cafeteria, we get our breakfast, we come sit down, say good morning to our friends. A lot of times we know that next Miss Lauricella, maybe Miss Turgot, maybe one of the other teachers would stand up and say something nice for the day, and we would do our stretching with Mr. V. Then your teacher would come and pick you up, get you all ready to go upstairs to your classrooms, and start your day with your application problem and getting unpacked, all that kind of good stuff. So, right, when you think about how your school day typically goes, right, you probably know what's going to happen first, what's going to happen next, and what might come the next day. So, we can think about how that's connected, our idea of knowing how a school day will probably go with knowing how a book in a series might go. Right? So, our series are just books one after another that kind of build on each other, and the characters keep showing up and the characters keep kind of going through the same things in the book. So today I want to teach you that when readers study an author's craft, they don't just notice the way that the author uses words and language, right? They also notice the way that the whole story tends to go. And once those readers start to know a particular series very well, they can start a new book in the series and think to themselves, oh yeah, I know how this book is going to go because I know how the series go. Right, so let's think back to my book that I was reading, Tommy Tales. So if we think about how the stories usually go, right, we know that Tommy has found this clicker and they don't really know like where it came from or how it works, but we do know that this little clicker can help them move to different places. So in the first story we read that Tommy and his friend ended up in the lunchroom. And then in the second book, we saw that Tommy and his friends ended up in the dog shelter. Now, we can think, how do our books usually start off, right? We know that Tommy is usually with his friends and his sister, and we know that what usually happens next in the middle is that they click the button on the clicker and they end up somewhere completely different, right? And usually at the end, right, they find a way to get back home. So we can confirm our ideas of how we think the story usually goes by checking through a few of the chapters or some of our stories. So let's look back at my book that I was reading the last time. I know that we took a little break to read James and the Giant Peach, but let's go back to our Tommy Tales book. So I'm going to bring up my book. Here we go. So the other day we were reading about how they ended up at the dog shelter, and the animal shelter, I'm sorry. I'm going to click through, right? And we know that we found RK5, and he's this cute little robot, and he says that he can speak to animals. He can talk to understand that anything that anyone says. So as we click through, we kind of can see what happens next, right? They're asking him all these questions, and where did he come from? What else can you do? And RK5 tells them, I'm from a star called Gendros. Our spaceship crashed here. I was sent to find help. I was the only one on the spacecraft who could speak your language. I met your dog. I tried to speak to him. He picked me up in his mouth and shut off my power. This morning, Andy said the word doolally to switch me on again. I don't know any magic words, said Andy. My granddad always said doolally. I didn't know that was a magic word. If you're so smart, RK5, can you get us out of this cage? Tommy said to the little robot. I will try. So it seems like RK5, right, is going to help them because he's this magic little robot that can get them other places. So in the next story, let's go back to our Tommy Tales book. So that's kind of what happened in the second book. If we go back to our Tommy Tales books, right, in the next book, book 3, I'm going to bring up my Tommy Tales books again. Hold on one second. Okay, so we read book 1, we read book 2. Now if we look at book 3, let's make a prediction about what we think might happen in this story. So based on what we know about Tommy Tales, right, and the stories of his clickers so far, we know that usually they end up in a little bit of trouble, and it seems like RK5 is going to help them get out of it. So if we think about what might happen in this story, right, we can think about the title, think about what's going to happen next. So it says Bongo gets adopted. So they're at the animal shelter, so it seems like we can probably guess that some type of animal is going to get adopted. So let's see. It says Tommy and his friends discover that not only is the magic clicker a robot named RK5, but a robot that can speak all languages. In this continuation, meaning it's continuing the last story from book 2, RK5 uses its language skills to enlist a little monkey caged in the animal shelter to help Tommy and his friends escape and return home. So if I flip through these pages, right, it seems like RK5 is going to try to help them get out of it. He's talking to all the dogs, but now he finds this little monkey. Maybe this little monkey is Bongo, right? So we can make predictions and really think about what's going to happen next in our series book, right? So when we're making our predictions, right, we're using all the things that we already know about the characters and how the stories are going to make a prediction of what we think might happen for the next book. So remember, today what you're going to really be doing is you're going to study the author's craft, meaning that you're really thinking about how the author is writing these series books. Notice how the whole story tends to go and kind of make a guess or make a prediction about how you think the next book in the series might go. And you can think about that by saying, oh, I know how this book is going to go because I know how this series go. So today your job, right, set your timer and you're going to read the whole time, but you're going to choose a new book in your series. Like I chose my new Tommy Tales book. You're going to think about how the series have been going so far and really think about what might happen in the next book. Then when you're done reading that book, right, you can change to partner reading and you can share that new information or new story that you've read with your partner. Off you go.